Hello, everyone. What is going on? It is May 4th, 2022. We'll be getting to that in a moment. As you can see, what's in the background is my bedroom. Of course, this will be the second live show coming to you proudly from where I sleep quite soundly. Let me do something here real quick. Hold on a second. There we go. All right. And yes, I am back in Florida after a very quick trip to Pennsylvania and back. I'm going to talk about that. But before, of course, we get to any of that, as you are watching tonight, please give this video a thumbs up. You know, the live shows, they're always good. Always. Always. It's true. Always. Give it the thumbs up. You'll find that down in here somewhere. If you are watching this live show, whether it be live right here on May 4th, 2022 at 9:01 p.m. Eastern Time, or you are watching the recording and you are not yet a subscriber to this channel, it's just kind of weird that you're watching this live show but are not a subscriber. So that button is right there. You'll be very happy when you hit that button. I'm telling you, you're going to hit that button. It's going to release a lot of endorphins in you, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that was definitely, I did the right thing there. So become a subscriber to this channel. We would appreciate it. And also, if you'd like to be a member of this channel where you get the episodes early, you get video episodes early, you get the Unfound Now episodes early, you get a daily update from me unless I'm traveling like I was on Monday and Tuesday. You get a daily update from me on what's going on in the Unfound world. And you get some other things as well. If all of that sounds compelling to you, then you should hit the join button somewhere down here. And for the low, low price of 10 cents a day, you get all that cool stuff. And I do some fun things with the update episode, the daily updates, video them, filming them or from different places in my condo here. Sometimes I can make them really look spooky if I do them out on the balcony at night. I try to do some cool things with that. So once again, if you're watching, you got to give it the thumbs up. Got to do that. At the bare minimum, you got to do that. If you're not a subscriber, right there. And if you'd like to become a member, gets a lot of cool stuff here, right here on YouTube. The join button is down there, except for you iPhone and iPad people. You're going to have to go to a regular computer to see the join button. So let's see who's in here. Call out some people. Or as they say in Pennsylvania, in Western Pennsylvania, they don't say the word out. They say at. Shout out. That's how they say that word. So who's here? Stitching was first. Richard, my dad is good. He's sitting right over there in the other room watching TV. TV that's probably has the highest volume on it that it's ever had. Screaming. Yeah, thank you, Screaming. The Real coming to us from Australia, representing that beautiful continent/country down there. The Real, thank you very much. Hello, Kathy, Karen, Jasmine, Shri, thank you for moderating tonight. Fishing, Twinkle, what's going on, Twinkle? Fishing says my phone is acting dumb with advertisers. It cuts you off. I'm trying not to take that personally, Fishing. Yeah, a lot of the usual suspects. We got a lot of return viewers. A lot, and once in a while we get some new people who end up becoming regulars. But yeah, we always have the regular people. This is kind of like, excuse me for a moment. Let me see if I can do something with this other light. It's a little bright. Yeah, it's kind of like Cheers. If we're all old enough to remember that sitcom. People sitting at their usual seats, Norm, Cliff, Fraser Crane. That's kind of like what this live show is on Wednesday night. A lot of the regular people, and then we continue to take new people on. So, like I said, my dad is here. He's sitting right over on the other side of this wall watching TV. And what went on there is on Monday morning, my brother Brian picked me up, drove me to the airport. I didn't have any luggage with me. I did take that laptop with me, though. I flew Spirit Airlines to Pennsylvania. My brother Michael picked me up, and he drove me to my dad's. We had to stop off to see a friend of his. Got dropped off, got there at about 2:30, maybe quarter till 3 on Monday. And by 5:30, like 2 hours later, a little over 2 hours later, my dad and I were on the road back to Florida. That's the amount of time I spent in that state or at his place. And so we left it at like 5:30 Pennsylvania time. And we got back here to Florida at about 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday. And we stopped for gas. What was it? Twice, I guess it would be. And maybe stopped once to go to the bathroom or something. And we stopped for like an hour for me to take a snooze. And that was it. And in fact, from the time I got up on Monday morning, 8 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday the next day. So that's 24, like 27 and a half hours. I slept for probably a total of 2 hours. It was crazy. But, I'm one of those people. I don't know what it is, but you get me on the road driving somewhere and I can just kind of get in that, I'm not mesmerized, right? It's not, I just get in a mode where, you know what? I just have to drive for a little bit and I don't really get that tired. Of course, eventually I do, but you get me behind the wheel as long as the car is comfortable and everything. You just put me where we're supposed to be going, and I can just really get in a really good mindset. All right, we're just going to put miles behind us, and we got to go where we got to go, and we did. Went from Pennsylvania to West Virginia to Virginia to North Carolina to South Carolina to Georgia to Florida. Drove right through the night, Monday into Tuesday. I saw the sun go down, and then I saw the sun come back up. Went down on the west side of the car, came up on the east side of the car. And not a lot of cars out there. It's a great time because that drive from Pennsylvania to Florida can get very busy. It's not like driving out in the West where you get out to like Kansas and Colorado. You're driving down through some of the most populated areas of the United States. And so to be going through like right by Charlotte at like 1 a.m, that's the perfect time. So, it was a good drive. Dad and I talked, just not really anything crazy. Didn't listen to a little bit of music here and there and everything. Just kind of looked at the sights. And that's what we did. In his Hyundai Santa Fe, which ran really great. Got about 29 miles to the gallon, according to the trip figures. Although I have to admit, we set that all up, but then we never did check it when we got here because both of us were pretty tired. Even though my dad just sat in the passenger seat the whole time, he was tired. Really didn't even check that when we got here. But everything was good. We had a couple backups here and there, but pretty smooth running. So, I like his car. It's nice. Has like 13,000 miles on it now. And more than that now. Because it's like about 1,060 miles here. Something like that. So it was really no big deal. And I've done that drive many times. The Real says, I think Cheers was pretty much my life when I was a bar attendant. It was like Cheers except with Australian accents. That's funny. Jazz, how are you, Jazz? Twinkle, I don't know how you made that trip back at. I would have never been able to do that. Just kind of get in a mode, just get really comfortable behind the wheel and not get too stressed about anything. Stitching says, dang, bet you're tired. Still feeling a little bit, although I did go play some disc golf today over Taylor and I played really well. So maybe I feel better than I think. But yeah, I was pretty wiped out by the time I got here. Richard says, do you go over to I-75 or I-95 or what? Richard, we take 79 out of Pennsylvania into West Virginia. We then take a shortcut to Beckley, West Virginia on the 19, and then we get onto the 77. And we take the 77 the whole way down until like Columbia, South Carolina. We hit the 26, and then from the 26 we hit the 95. And then from the 95, we then get on the 10 going west. This is now you're in Florida. And then you're not on the 10 too long, and you get on the 301, which is the shortcut that then takes us down to the I-75 in Florida, which then goes to the 275. So that is that is the route, Richard. That is the quickest way to do it. Thanks, Julie. Charlie, it sounds like you're driving to Colorado to see my kid. Absolutely nothing, though, in West Texas and in New Mexico, about the same amount of time, too. 26 hours, yeah. Hello, Moano. Thank you. Welcome back. Thank you. Robin says, good evening. Just checking in from Edmonton. Wow. Glad to hear your dad had a nice trip to Florida. Well, hello to you, Robin, way out there in Edmonton. Good to see you. I've never been there. Shree says, I'd rather fly personally. Well, Dad wants to have his car down here, so that's what he gets. But I don't know how much longer I'll be doing that, to be honest with you, Shree, although I'm not sure too long, in the long run, it saves you time or money-wise, all things considered. Well, especially considering, gas prices and everything else. The thing is, he likes to take so many things down here, and you start counting luggage and everything. It's probably still cheaper to drive, Cherie, especially since my dad just gets to sit there. So there's that. But so he's here. He's sleeping over in the other room. That's why all this stuff is over here. In his way, he's already called me a hoarder, which is funny. And which I haven't even bought anything for like over a year. He just comes up with words. He just uses words. And that's why those 38 days in Pennsylvania back January to the beginning of March was so long. But he's here now on different turf. He's on my turf at least a little bit. So there's that. We'll see how he stays. He says he's going to stay here for a month. I doubt that. What else is going on? I got some disc golf to play this weekend. That's why I went out. I hadn't played for a while, so I went out at about 3:30 today. Dad went with me. We went over to Taylor, where I'll be playing this weekend, and I played really well. Go figure, even though I haven't been practicing. So that was nice. I was over there for a couple hours. There were some other people there. It was really warm, 80-some degrees out, but it was beautiful. And got a little question for all of you, being that this is May the 4th, and so it's what May the 4th be with you. That's kind of the running joke connected to Star Wars. So I'm going to just ask a question of all of you who are watching right now. What is your favorite Star Wars movie / I don't know, show like they've had like on Disney Plus? Of course, we have all the old movies from the 70s and 80s. We have the prequels in the early 2000s. We have the more recent Star Wars movies. We, of course, have The Mandalorian. We have the Rogue One. We have the Han Solo movie. So out of all of those, what is your favorite movie slash show? So you always get to ask me questions. I'm asking a question of you now instead. So think about that as this show continues. I also need to give a huge shout out to a happy birthday to my assistant Heather. I'm not. I wouldn't even tell you even if I knew, but I don't even know how old she is. But her birthday is today, so I posted that in the discussion group on Facebook. So I wished her happy birthday. I don't think she's in here. She has a lot of things going on in her life right now, and she usually doesn't tune in here. But still, if you'd like to wish her a happy birthday, please do so. What else is going on with me? I may be going to Daytona in a couple weeks, in a couple weekends to see my buddy Doug. I didn't even realize this until a couple days ago, but he's coming to Florida over to the, which way is Daytona? Daytona's that way. He's coming down to Florida to the Atlantic coast for a big concert festival that they're having at the Daytona Speedway. Kiss is going to be there. Guns N' Roses is or are going to be there. Megadeth is going to be there. A few groups, of course, like those that I know, and then a bunch of groups that I've never heard of, which is not surprising. But he's going to be coming down. It's like a festival. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I'm throwing around the idea of going over to meet him. I don't know, for 1 day, 2 days. I don't know. But that's like a 2.5 hour drive, which is nothing after, of course, a 17-hour drive from Pennsylvania. So I didn't even know that. He's meeting a guy that I know the guy. But Doug is very good friends with him. And then some other guy's going to be there. So I'm throwing around the idea of going over there. Maybe I'll get to see Megadeth for the first time. Maybe I'll get to see Kiss for the third time. I've never seen Guns N' Roses. So I'm throwing the idea around. I haven't committed to anything yet, and it's still a couple weeks away. There's no risk of the tickets selling out or anything, but it's called Rockville, and it's held inside the Daytona Speedway, which I've been by the Daytona Speedway a few times when I've disc golfed over in Daytona, but I've never gone inside the Speedway. I've never seen a race there or anything. So it would be good to do that. I think that would be a good time. And Doug's going to be coming down here in October for a couple days. We're going to go see Iron Maiden again. They are playing right here in Tampa in October. I already have the tickets. So maybe we can make a few things happen here. So maybe doing that in a couple weeks. I don't know if I have any plans going on. Really, I was trying to schedule a few things to get out of here while my dad was here. But doesn't look like those things are going to happen. Maybe it still happen. He says, I could stay here by myself. Maybe. We'll just have to see. But so that's what's going on there. And that's really about it. Really about it regarding the personal stuff. I've been good. Of course, if I can drive the whole way back from Pennsylvania in 17 hours, then physically and mentally, I'm doing pretty good. I did get to see my dad's friend Dottie while I was up there. I did walk over to her place and see her for about 15 minutes before we left. It was good to see her and her cat Chipper, although he did bite me on my hand there. You can kind of see it right there. where he nipped me. He's known to do that. And it was good seeing my brother Michael. And I should tell you that my nephew John is going to be getting married here in October. So, or no, September, October. I think it's in October. Just he's getting married on a Thursday of all days. And so he's getting married in Winter Park, which is on the other side of Orlando. It's not that long of a drive. And just hoping that's not the same day as the Iron Maiden concert, now that I just said that. But we might be planning something. I don't want to call it a bachelor party or anything, but my nephew John, by the way, he's 35. He'll be 36 in December. Of course, I'm 51, but he's been dating this woman for, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years, for a while. And her parents live here in Florida. John's mother and her husband live in Arizona, but the wedding's taking place here, which is nice. So my sister Diane will be coming down, and her husband, my brother Michael, will be coming down. And so I'll be there once again. It'll be in October. But what I was going to say is myself, my brother Brian, it's my brother Brian who lives, of course, close to me here. It's his son who's getting married. And John and my brother Michael, we've kind of thrown around the idea, do we want to do something? Do we want to get together? Not really not a bachelor type of thing. I mean, but we've talked about maybe going, flying somewhere and all meeting, maybe in Las Vegas, or maybe renting an RV and riding around to some places, doing something like that in September. We're throwing around maybe going to a concert somewhere together. Don't know if any of that's going to happen, but that would certainly, I could certainly get into something like that. But like I said, John is getting married in October, and that's going to bother me now as to I'm going to be thinking about this for the rest of the live show. Let me check my calendar for a second. And see if I have I don't have anything marked here. I don't have his, don't know. I'm going to have to check and see, make sure that Iron Maiden, the thing is, I think Iron Maiden is on a Friday and he's getting married on a Thursday. So even if it was the next day, that would be fine. I think it's going to bother me. But so what did everybody answer to my question regarding their favorite Star Wars movie or show? Screaming says Empire Strikes Back. In a Minute says A New Hope. Screaming says I'm a member of the 501st Legion Worldwide Star Wars Costuming Club. Wow, we do a lot of charity work. Screaming, good for you. I don't know what that means, Carrie, but that's funny. Twinkle, I'm embarrassed to say I've only watched the original Star Wars back in the day. Well, you got to at least see the other two originals, Twinkle. I don't know if the other things are worth seeing. But Fishing says the first one and done. Jazz says I was a kid, but I like the one when Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father. That is Empire Strikes Back. Thank not to ruin it for everybody. Stitching the 80s, of course, those movies were good, but also the Mandalorian one. I agree with you, Stitching. Kathy, saw the original Star Wars once in 1984 on TV. Don't remember any of it. Not a science fiction fan. Okay, Kathy. Taco, I think I've only seen the first one. I really like the bar in it, though, but a rough crowd, but I'd still like to work there. That's funny. That was the cantina where Han Solo shoots Greedo, and Han did shoot first. Callie, Twinkle, you guys saying Club Tacos. Because I feel the same above comment about Star Wars. I thought you were talking about the movie, huh? I was like, what? Screaming. I've seen Megadeth a couple of times back in the 90s. Great shows. Maybe I'll get to see them screaming. We'll have to work that out. Shree is saying, just finished part 2 of the Political Beats Prince podcast. Excellent recommendation. I told you. I'm glad I know it's a long listen, and Sheree, but what Sheree is talking about is maybe a month ago, I had talked about how I was listening to this podcast. You're always wondering, well, Ed, when you're not doing Unfound, do you listen to anything else? And what I came across was this excellent podcast that has writers on to talk about their favorite musicians. And it goes really, really, really in depth. And this podcast is now covering Prince, going back to his first days, his first album, and they're going to work their way the whole way up until he died. And it is spectacular. And like Sheree says, the podcast is called Political Beats. It's not on Spotify, but it is on iTunes. And they've done part one, which was the first part of his career up to 1999. And then part two was 1999. Is that what it was, Sheree? It was that up through like the early 90s before he changed his name to a symbol. And then I guess part three is going to be, maybe they're just going to put all of that other stuff in. Maybe they're going to do part 4, 5, 6. I don't know. But part three will be his career, like I guess in the 90s, maybe getting into the 2000s. But it is a spectacular, if you're really into Prince, if you grew up at that time when he was really, really popular, Purple Rain, 1999, Parade, Raspberry Beret, Mountains, all that. You will love this discussion, how deep they go into like B-sides and all this stuff and other things that were going on in Prince's life besides these albums. It is so good. So if you're into that, you just got to remember the first part one is like 4 hours. Part two is like 3.5 hours. You're going to have to dedicate some time to it, like you maybe have to do with Unfound episodes. But it is well worth it. Like I said, if you're not into Prince, then I can't help you. But if you are, and you think, well, I know everything about him, I've listened to all his albums, I'm telling you, if you listen to this, you're probably going to hear even some new things. And they really, the people who are doing it really have done their research. They are music people. It's really good. So, Sheree, thank you for recommending that. I thought you might like that. Richard says that's an I-4 drive up to Daytona for that event. Yeah, the I-4 can get really crazy, Richard. Twinkle says she does like the Alien movies. Yeah, the first two are good. And then after that, hello, Tanya. What's going on? Thank you, Moana. Yeah, Twinkle, you like more science fiction movies than I do. Okay, Sheree. Empire Strikes Back is Sheree's favorite. Moana loves Prince. Well, you got to check out the Political Beats podcast covering Prince. You got to do that, Moana. I would have to say, as far as Star Wars goes, it's weird that I think the first movie is still the best one. I get why Empire Strikes Back is so popular. I get it, even though it does kind of end on a downer. Once again, not to ruin it for anybody, but it does end on a downer. But it is a very complex. It's a more complex story, I guess, than the first one is. But I'm still a sucker for the first one, even after all the movies and everything that's been done. Now, I will tell you, those movies that came out, The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and all those were terrible. Those were terrible. And I didn't see the Han Solo movie, but I heard it wasn't very good. Of the newer movies, I thought the first one with Rey was okay, but then they had Luke come in, and I thought that was weird. And I never did see the third one. But I will tell you that the Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and then the Diary of Boba Fett and everything have been spectacular. Do that. If they're going to go, make some more Star Wars movies, full length 2.5 hour movies you have to see in the theater or whatever, wait until it comes out like 45 days later. Do that. Do the same kind of stories and filming and structure and tone and everything of Mandalorian and Boba Fett, because they're spectacular. Just absolutely good. Probably almost as good as the original 3 movies. And I'll admit, I like Return of the Jedi too. It's just not as good as the other 2. I know a lot of people make fun of it, the Ewoks and everything. I like it. It's certainly better than all the rest of the later movies. The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, those that have been on Disney Plus have been just about as good as the original movies. So, but I'm still a sucker for the first one. Luke, becoming, just starting out, you're starting to hone his Jedi abilities and blowing up the Death Star and all of that. Just so good. And getting to know Han Solo for the first time. There's still something special about the first one. And plus, the second one is so serious. Empire Strikes Back is so serious. First one's like kind of in the middle somewhere, but Empire Strikes Back is so serious. Even though there's some good quips and everything, it's just serious matter. And then maybe Return of the Jedi, a little too loose, a little too laid back, a little too goofy. I just thought that the first one, what they now call A New Hope, struck the right tone on top of everything else. Just amazing. I was able to do that. Moana says, nothing like the originals. Everything what's going on with you. Screaming says, the Unfound Podcast Channel. Just for the record, I'm an old school Star Wars for the most part. Yeah, I like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett too. Yeah, they were good. I think Jon Favreau, who is handling all of that, is doing a great job. And of course, he directed a couple of the Iron Man movies in the MCU and all, he's had a part in that. But just really, really good. And who can't love Baby Yoda? Who just can't love Baby Yoda? So those are some of the things going on with me. And I know it's going to bother me. I'm going to check something for 1 second. I'm going to text my brother Brian because he'll be able to tell me when John's wedding is. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. And so he'll get back to me on that. All right. So all of the personal stuff is out of the way. And maybe one more thing I can remind all of you. If you'd like to monetarily contribute to Unfound while you are watching the live show, and you can only do this while watching the live show when it's happening, you can hit that little gray square down there with a little $sign in it. And you can do that. It's called Super Chat. Your name will come up there. It'll be in big, nice colors. I think you get to pick a different emoji and things like that. So if you would like to monetarily contribute while you are watching tonight, please do so. And I would appreciate it. All right. So let's go on to the items that I put together, of course, with these live show. Maybe some people here are new, or somebody is new who's watching in the rerun for the first time, finding Unfound for the first time, finding out that I do these live shows. I do bring an outline to every live show that I've ever done. It usually takes me about an hour and a half to put it all together. I do not do this all off the top of my head. But what I do is I combine a lot of personal stuff that I've already talked about over the first half hour, which is pretty common. And then I put in a bunch of stuff that is connected to Unfound in some way. And then I also add in, if I have time, some news just out there, true crime news, just things that I know some of you are following that have nothing to do with any of the disappearances that we've covered on Unfound, have nothing to do with the podcast as a whole, nothing like that. But things that I like to talk about. For example, Sherry Papini. We talked about, up and, and even after it turned out they discovered that she had lied. That had been an ongoing topic on this live show. So I will now get into some of the unfound items for tonight. First, as you probably realized, there was no poll this week. It was update episode number 11. It went for about 2 hours and 40 minutes, something like that. That's pretty common. So I really didn't know. There was no question in the discussion group, and the think tank, which is held every Sunday evening. If you'd like to be part of the think tank, you can sign up at patreon.com/unfound podcast. It's the only one of its kind where we go in depth about the disappearances that are covered on Unfound every Friday. We went over some of those updates, me asking the members there. We usually have between 8 and 11 think tank members every week. Just asking them about what they thought about some of the updates that popped up. And so we had a good discussion regarding that. And it gave me kind of the springboard. It's always weird for me when the end of the month is on a weekend, which means I have to do the blog writing and the newsletter writing at the same time. So I just made them both the same thing this weekend. And so if you got your newsletter, and this is a topic of conversation in the think tank on Sunday evening, is why do we continue to have all of this craziness in the missing persons community? What brings what I would say a lot of kooky people getting involved, even becoming investigators in these disappearances and saying wacky things? Why does this happen? Even if they are retired investigators, why does this happen? How can somebody be on the job for 25 years, retire, and then decide, I'm going to maybe get my private investigator's license and do this or do that? And you'd think somebody with that amount of experience would be less prone to, if they do interviews, saying weird things, and it's not. Why is that? So with the newsletter, if you got it, if you're on the list, if you're not on the list, Unfound Podcast at google.com, Unfound Podcast at gmail.com, I should say, if you'd like to get on the list. But in both, so the blog and the newsletter were essentially the same this month, this past weekend. And so I explored that topic. And I really, really tried to be very logical about it. I was not sensational about it. I did not say that I just think all of these people are bad people, horrible people, grifters, or anything else. I think there are some very logical reasons that these people become that. And it's partly what they think they know about crime in general, and then what they discover once they start looking into disappearances. And I think that their perceptions are kind of shattered, and then they have to start making decisions about whether they really want to be involved in this or not. Like I said, I wrote almost 4,000 words on it. I hope you will check it out. Of course, if you are a Patreon member, you get to read the actual blog. And if you're not a Patreon member, but you get the newsletter, if you're on the list, then you should have gotten that in your inbox sometime late on Sunday. And I'm sure this is going to be an ongoing topic. It's already been a topic that I've discussed before, but this is the first time I actually sat down to really think about it. Why does this happen? And I think there are a lot of, like I said, logical reasons. I just don't think that all these people are crazy or they're necessarily immoral or unethical or anything. But it's a lot of things like plane crashes, as I've talked about before. It's not one singular thing that brings down a plane. It's a combination of a lot of factors. Disappearances themselves are the same thing. It's not just one thing that causes a person to disappear, whether it's a suicide, a murder, walking off. It's a bunch of things put together. And I think with this topic of all these zany people doing weird things, and really what brought it on was the Chance Engelbert update with this woman from, where was it, North Dakota or something, coming down and looking into it and going to Chance's wife's house with the camera on. And it's that update that caused me to really sit down and think about this and what can be done about this. And there's probably some blame to go along, all around. And of course, what I would say is that families have to stay away from these people. But I also write in there about why they don't. Once again, my perception, what I think I know after all of these episodes that we've done. And you should know, speaking of episodes, this Friday is going to be episode 300. Now, I know that's maybe not impressive. I think Generation Y, they've been doing that podcast since what, 2013, 2014? They're probably up to 500 or 600 or something. I don't know. But episode 300. Now, this is Disappearance 251. But you may say, well, how have you, how do you have 300 episodes, but you only have covered 251 disappearances or whatever it is? Well, it's a combination of update episodes, which we now know there are 11 of them. There are Q&A episodes. We now know there are 4 of those. So those are 15 right there. We've had some rebroadcasts I've done. For example, we did Robin Abrams rebroadcast that one. We revisited it. Joshua Guimond. There were some in memoriams for some people whose remains were found. It all adds up to almost 50 episodes of that type. So we have 251 episodes that were disappearances, and then the rest, it's all of that put together. So we're hitting another landmark, I guess you could call it, 300 episodes. Never could have imagined it. But using that experience, I really, really tried to be as objective as I could. Looking at this particular topic, the zaniness that has happened around Maury Murray's disappearance and Brian Shaver's and Jennifer Kessie's and Tom Brown's and I guess now Chance Engelbert's and a bunch of others. Why does this happen? So what is are people saying? Screaming, may the 4th be with you. Look at you, Screaming. Thank you, Screaming. You're very generous. Thank you for contributing through the super chat. And yes, rock on, Screaming, rock on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Twinkle says, love the think tank. It's fun and informative. I've learned so much about how to investigate missing persons cases. That's why we do it, Twinkle. That is why we do it. And once again, if you'd like to be part of the think tank, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Everything says, I think they want to be in the limelight, Ed, and think they are owed it. That may be for a few of the people, everything. I can certainly say that that's for a few of them. But I'm not convinced that that is the main reason that this all gets so out of whack. I'm not convinced of that. Certainly a percentage. I don't know what percentage it is. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a huge percentage. But that's certainly a factor. There's a lot of different factors. That could be one of them. But so sure. And once again, as you're watching, looking at the numbers right now, please give this live show a thumbs up. You know it's good. It's going so well. We're 45 minutes in. It's a spectacular show. Just give it the thumbs up. So once again, if you've not read the newsletter yet, that's what you'll get in that newsletter. Almost 4,000 words of me talking about that or writing about that topic. I hope you enjoy it. If you'd like to send me any responses to it, ask me more questions about it, of course, you can do that at unfoundpodcast at gmail.com. Moving on, and it seems like this happens every time. I don't know what it is. It seems every time I do an update episode, like days later, there'll be a big update on some disappearance that Unfound has covered. It always happens. Always. So this time, there's actually two. This is the first one. Of course, Angela Greens, if you'll remember, she disappeared from Kansas just a few years ago. I believe the year was 2019, the summer of 2019. You will remember that her husband said that he took her to a psychiatric hospital, but he would not tell anybody what hospital it is. And then when people really started digging, he said that she died in the hospital, but he could not provide a death certificate and where she was buried, if she got cremated, nothing. You may remember that Angela's daughter was on the program, as was a cousin. It was one of those ones where I had two interviews for one episode. Well, now the update, this is just within the last couple days. This was not something that it was out there before the update episode. The FBI is now getting involved in this disappearance. Why are they? What are the special circumstances? I have to admit, it's a little hard to say. Of course, Angela is not a child. I don't think there's any... and how do I want to put this? Her husband is just not believable regarding this. But there's no allegations that, she or her body were taken over state lines. I guess it's possible. I don't think there's any facts to support that, but I guess it's possible. Just don't know. Is it because local police are over their heads? I think what we know about disappearances such as Angela's, when these husbands say things that don't make any sense, you get to a point kind of where there's not much you can do. You can, of course, still do searches. Maybe somebody wants to keep an eye on the husband to see does he have some sort of pattern? Is he going somewhere? Where he possibly disposed of his wife who's now missing? You could do that. But the FBI is now involved. I watched a TV report, local to Kansas, talking about this. Although that reporter said that no FBI people were actually seen at Angela's house where her husband still lives. But I do think that there was some questioning of neighbors. Did they remember anything? Did they see anything? But it's also, is the FBI involved because Angela is from China? But I think that she was an American citizen at the time of her disappearance. I don't think that there's anything of a conspiratorial nature or national security issue nature. As an example, maybe you see this in the news once in a while, maybe once a month. They, there'll be charges against maybe a professor from China who is here at some university here in the United States, and they find out that this guy is actually a spy and he's being paid by the Chinese government. Seems like I read a story like that maybe once a month. I don't think there are any allegations that Angela was doing anything like that. So, not sure what makes Angela's disappearance FBI worthy and what makes all of these over here FBI unworthy. I don't know. And we should also remember that just because the FBI gets involved does not mean that that disappearance is going to get solved. But they are now working it. talking to some people, doing some more interviews uh, in the immediate area where she went missing. We'll see what happens. But to my knowledge, Jeff, I don't think he's talking much. I don't think he's talking much at all. So let's go back to see what some of you are saying. Sheree says, I saw a poll the other day asking how many people knew about Mara Murray, and only 55% of people knew, and it was on a true crime show. Really proves how many new people have become interested. Yeah, in true crime in the last few years. It's true. That is true, Sheree. Everything says, I remember that, and as guilty, he's guilty, mate, for sure, full of lies and BS. Regarding Angela's disappearance, I agree with you, everything. But this does feel like one of those disappearances, though, that if they're going to find Angela and she is deceased, it may just be found by luck, somebody stumbling upon her remains in the woods or something. Maybe. Everything says partner knows where Angela is for sure. Twinkle, did Angela's husband supposedly take her over state lines, and that is why the FBI could get involved? Twinkle, maybe he did. I don't remember that coming up at any time in that episode with her daughter or the cousin. I guess it's possible. I don't know. I don't think there are any facts to support that. So I just don't know. I don't know, but that is the update that has come out since the update episode just came out on Friday. Of course, now I'll have to save that for the next update episode in August, if you can believe it. So something like this that happens just a few days after the update episode, I will include this, and maybe more will happen between now and then. Maybe they'll find Angela. Maybe she's alive somewhere. Who knows? But this will be included in the next update episode at the end of August. But this is how I save stuff like this when it happens. But so if anybody out there that's watching this, whether live or in the rerun, knows why the FBI got involved in this particular disappearance and all these others that are out there, please let me know. Moving on, not tomorrow, but next Thursday, Dr. Telesco and I will be doing a show. We haven't gotten together since March. Some things came up in April. We couldn't do our Thursday show on the last Thursday of April, which would have been what, the 30th or the 28th. But next Thursday, mark your calendars, 7 p.m. on the Fischler College of Education and School of Criminal Justice channel. She and I will be getting together, and we will be discussing. I'm going to reveal the episode that we will be talking about. And we kind of went in a different direction. We went in the direction of a missing persons case that was solved. Up to this point, we've done nothing but unsolved ones. We've also talked about Janelle Matthews' murder, which is still technically unsolved still. But we haven't done a solved one. And so next Thursday, she and I will be discussing the murder of Zoe Campos next Thursday. So give us a good chance to talk to of course, retired police officer, Dr. Telesco, about how is it that the original investigation missed that there was a new slab of concrete in Carlos Rodriguez's backyard, even though they did go there and look around the house and in the backyard. How did they miss that? So I'm sure that that and many other topics will be covered. I will, of course, still do my spiel. I'll be introduced. Dr. Telesco and I will exchange some pleasantries. And then I will talk about Zoe, her going missing, them interviewing Carlos back at the time, and then 5 years of nothing. And then all of a sudden, once again, the reason I remember this is because it was right around when my mother was going downhill, and of course she would eventually pass away. How it all came back very, very quickly. I can remember watching it live at the time. The CSI trailer being at his house. And if you'll also remember, there were some people on horseback. There were, at a field not too far away, allegedly looking for something involving the disappearance as well, or her murder as well. Remember it like it was yesterday. And so I will talk about all of that. And then Dr. Telesco and I will have a conversation about the overall picture of Zoe Campus's murder, and how is it that she could meet this guy for the first time on that Sunday and be murdered by that guy later that night. And she went over to his place. It's not like he came over and abducted her. She went over to his place willingly. And to my knowledge, Carlos Rodriguez, before that day, had no criminal record. Now, he ended up establishing a criminal record after for some other things, but, how does that happen? It just seems so random, but yes, it did happen. So we'll be jumping into all of that next Thursday, 7 p.m. on Dr. Telesco's YouTube channel. Twinkle says, yeah, he said he put her in an institution. Was it in another state? I think it was just right there in Kansas, Twinkle. Of course, nobody believes that, but could have been on the moon. Kathy, Jeff seemed to make up what happened to Angela as he went along. That's true. Christine, hello, Christine. How are you? Getting here late? That's totally fine, Christine. Everything, I hope Angela is alive, but is seen as lots of disappearances. It doesn't look good. It does not. Kathy, Twinkle, no, she supposedly went to a mental hospital in Kansas where they live. That's right. All right. So update for Angela Green. Maybe by the time the next update episode comes out, that disappearance will be totally resolved. Let's hope. Sheree says, I think Carlos had stalking charges. Okay, thank you, Sheree. Yeah, before he and Zoe met. Okay. Because remember, Carlos and Zoe were introduced through a mutual friend at a party that Sunday. And then after everybody went to bed, Zoe went back out by herself over to his house. And of course, we know she then went missing. All right, moving on. Maybe some of you even went to this, but I thought I would talk about it. And CrimeCon was in Las Vegas this past weekend. Big showing there. A lot of people. A lot of podcasters were there. A lot of TV true crime people were there. A lot of viewers and listeners like yourselves were there. A lot of family members of people who have been murdered and missing people were there. And I was not there. And I continue to state, I'm not ever going to go. And even before CrimeCon came out, a couple people messaged me, are you going to be there? And then while it was going on, Ed, you really should go. I'm not going. And just so, we're clear on something. It's like, well, Ed just doesn't want to go because he has other things to do. Well, I will tell you this. At the time that CrimeCon was going on, did it start last Thursday through Sunday or whatever it was? I saw, because I do follow maybe a couple Instagram accounts or Facebook pages of other true crime podcasts. And I saw these pictures of these people. They're out in Vegas on a Saturday night. And hey, when I lived there, I did that a little bit myself. But you should know something, that while they were out there on a Saturday night, having a good time going to this convention, but then on Saturday night, I was out on my balcony right here, right on the other side of this curtain here. And on a Saturday night, I was editing the interview for this coming Friday's episode. I typed up an interview outline that will surely be used shortly for a disappearance, probably, that we're going to cover sometime later this month. I was doing Unfound work on a Saturday night. And, that's just more of who I am than going to that. As I've stated before, I know I haven't talked about CrimeCon for a while. Of course, CrimeCon hasn't happened for a couple years due to COVID. And in fact, I think one of the years it was just right over here in Orlando. You have to remember that that whole thing is put on by an entertainment company. It's a for-profit entertainment company. And if you go to their website and you read about what they're about, they do things, they arrange these conventions where they think they can make money. Now, I have nothing against anybody making money, but just so we understand why it's all happening. And I don't want to be a part of that. I just don't. I think that a lot of these people who are hosts, like myself, who are a lot of them much better known than I'll maybe ever be, and that's fine. I think they just go there to get their egos stroked and everything else. I don't. From a standpoint of solving disappearances and everything else, I just don't find it to be very constructive. What's much more constructive to me is just me making my own arrangements and going to schools and talking to students, criminal justice majors. To me, that's going to have a bigger effect than anything the Crime Con could do anywhere. And I'll continue to stick by that. I know that a lot of hosts go to that because that's the only way that they could meet maybe other hosts that they're friends with, that they've done dual episodes together over Zoom or something like that. I guess I kind of understand that. But a lot of people just going that they're going to it for the fun of it. I don't know how much for the education. I hear that's why they're doing it, but I know that the company that puts it on doesn't give a dang about the education and everything at all. It's just an opportunity. It's just a business opportunity. And the very second that company who puts on this conventions decides that it can't make enough money doing that, it won't hold it anymore. That's how much they really, really care about all of this. So that's why I don't go. It's just not, it just doesn't conform to my idea, my vision for what we're all supposed to be doing here. So there's that. On top of everything else, as I think Kashri told me earlier today, John Lord, friend of the program, got COVID, and he believes he got it in Las Vegas at the convention. So maybe that was another good reason that I didn't go. Heck, for all I know, I might have already had COVID already. But he got it there. I'm wondering if there's going to be, what do they call that, a super spreader event or something. So it seems the people that went to that, at least John got it. And if he could get it, anybody could get it. So that happened at CrimeCon as well. So I have no problems meeting many of you, and I've met some listeners. I haven't seen you in here. K-Dog, are you there? I haven't seen you. If you're working tonight, I haven't seen you post yet. But of course, I met K-Dog. I met another woman here recently who lives here, who's originally from the area in near Canadian Texas, and now she lives here. We got together at a Chipotle a couple weeks ago. She wanted to talk to me about Tom Brown's death. And there's going to be another listener who's going to be in the area in a few weeks. So I don't mind meeting up with people. That's just me. It's just more my style and everything, having a booth and all of that. And, if you were going to, if I was going to be a part of any seminar that they have there, I'd be doing it with other people. I just got to be honest. I don't need that. I know that sounds totally outrageous and everything else, but I already do that on my own. I already arranged that for myself. So, and, certainly there's a lot of that's going to be happening this fall with the, the people who will be responsible for these disappearances eventually. I can do that on my own instead of having to buy a booth and get a plane ticket and get a room. And it's a lot of money. So there's that. But that's my attitude. And I know that it is unique compared to just about everybody else's. But maybe at this point, if you're a listener of Unfounds for any period of time, maybe that shouldn't surprise you. Okay, moving on. I did say that there was another update that has happened since the update episode came out this past Friday. Once again, no surprise. And that has to do with Steve Pankey. His public defender has bowed out. And this is interesting because just last week I told you that I had a conversation with this company that's trying to put this short series together on Janelle Matthews' murder. And this was not even a topic of conversation last. He had not heard anything. I had not heard anything. But just within the last couple days, it's been revealed that Steve Pankey's public defender has bowed out. Why? After all this time, it was figured out that this attorney has some sort of conflict of interest. I read a couple articles. They don't state what that conflict of interest is. I will admit that speaking now to this TV producer, was it yesterday or today, this morning, about this news, I did make the joke that maybe the public defender found out that his ex-wife's ex-husband's cousin's daughter's boyfriend is related to Steve somewhere. I guess what I'm saying is maybe the public defender finally got to a point and said, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this guy anymore. I'm going to try to find any way I can to get out of this. I don't know that. Totally a joke. Just making that up. But it is weird to me that the public defender has been involved in Steve's, the way I remember it, Steve's attorney for the first trial bowed out pretty quickly after the hung jury, very, very fast. And the public defender came in late November, early December of 2021. And now 5 months later, he or she, I think it's a he, discovered that there's a conflict of interest, something that he cannot adequately defend Steve due to something going on. It does sound weird, but maybe it's par for the course when Steve Pankey's concerned. And I don't know if this is something that the attorney himself or herself discovered on their own, or was this something the prosecution discovered and brought it to the judge's attention. I don't know, but I guess what I'm saying here is that trial's not going to be happening. It may not happen this year. Of course, the talk was that everything might get up and going here in May of 2022. We now know that that's not going to happen. In fact, I guess we could say maybe we're looking at the same, if there is going to be a retrial, we might be looking at the same time of the year as 2021 in October again. This may be how long this all gets pushed back now. So I'm hoping we eventually do find out what this conflict of interest is. It is, I don't know how often that happens. I don't follow enough trials to really know. But it does seem rare to me. So hopefully we will find out what this conflict of interest was and who brought it up and why it took so long to be revealed. But so Steve, you have to remember, all of you should remember, if you forgot, that he's still in jail. Yes, they hung on 3 of the charges and he was convicted on the 4th one. But he has been in jail since what? August of 2020 or September, October of 2020. He's still in jail, even though it was hung on the major charges from his first trial. He's still in jail. So now he's going to have to ride this, out even further. And I don't know. Of course, if he's found guilty, he's going to be in jail for a long time. But maybe you could look at it the other way. Only Steve Pankey really, really, really knows whether he's guilty or not. Or if it was somebody else did do it, that person would then know that Steve is innocent. But if he is innocent, he's thinking, I want to get this trial done as soon as possible, prove my innocence, and then get out of jail. Well, this this gets in the way of all of that. So if you didn't know, Steve Pankey is going to be reassigned an attorney because this one bowed out to a conflict of interest. Twinkle says, I would really like to go to CrimeCon. Christine, CrimeCon is even super expensive to attend. That's what I've been told. And although I've not looked at it recently, but early on in Unfound's existence, before I really figured out that that's not really the direction that I want to go I did look at the prices and costs of going and setting up, and it's crazy. Podcasting, except for the very, very, very top 1% of the 1% of the 1%, is not, for the most part, a huge money-making activity. And as I've said, it's only been recently, due to Unfound's now affiliation with Spotify, that I can say that the actual episodes themselves generate some money. And that's after 5.5 years of doing this. So I guess when I looked at those prices, and that was like 5 years ago, and we know inflation and everything else so crazy now. It was expensive back then. I can't even imagine what it was. And I will even go as far to say is that if it was something that I thought was in line with my attitude toward disappearance and true crime and doing Unfound, I wouldn't be able to do it. There's no way that the costs just, it's just not, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I guess that's the other thing that I think about, that all of these people going to these podcasters who do go, they must be doing very well for themselves. That's all I can say. But even if I wanted to go, I don't know if financially, and I don't want to go. I'm more than happy to save the money, as I've said. But even if I wanted to go and it was in line, I would still be like, that cost cannot be reconciled. It just can't. My attitude. So it's expensive for everybody. Like I said, it's a money-making activity. I'm not a communist. I get it. But we just have to realize why everybody's there in the first place. Twinkle, a steady diet of Steve would be hard to take. Well, you're right. The funny thing is, I got in the email exchanges I had with Steve, and the one time I spoke to him on the phone, which was for the official interview, I got along fine with him. He is a weirdo. He's a kook. But I can surely imagine in an attorney situation, and dare I say it, just being out there in Greeley for those days, it did seem to me that Steve and the attorney that he hired with his own money maybe weren't totally copacetic. And maybe in the interviews you saw with Steve's lawyer before the trial ever happened, like the 48 Hours episode, other places, you can maybe see that his attorney was maybe at the end of his rope with Steve behind the scenes. You could have interpreted some of the things that he said that way. So maybe you're right, Twinkle. A steady diet of Steve would be hard to take. Maybe you're right. And I guess, Twinkle, that's why I made the joke that maybe the attorney got to the point where he started looking through his family tree to see if he's related, 10 times removed from Steve, or maybe the judge or something, so the attorney could get out of it or something. That's why I made the joke about that. So you may be right, Twinkle. Christine, I didn't realize that he's still in jail. Oh yeah, Christine, he's still in jail. Now, I think that if there is another trial and he's found not guilty, I think he will be let out. I think the time as he is served probably would be enough to cover the one charge that he was convicted of in the first trial. I think. Maybe not. But I got to believe that if there's another trial and he's found not guilty, that probably he will be let out. Probably. Christine, probably they write it off as an expense. It's Christine. Probably they do. Probably these other podcasters and other people do. I get that, but it's still money out of your pocket. And I get it. You get to write it off on your taxes and everything, but it's still money that you have to spend. And there's no guarantee that you're getting that money back. And the way it all depends, maybe how they're set up as an LLC or a Class C corporation, Class S corporation, whatever it may be. It's still money out of your pocket, and you have to find that money somewhere. Cherie says they have spouses. Yeah. Now, maybe that's it, Cherie. Yeah, maybe some of these podcasters are being independently financed through their significant others who do have jobs that pay pretty well. That may be this. That may certainly be the situation, Cherie. Not me. I'm as single can be. All right. So Steve Pankey, new attorney. If I see any more on that, when a new attorney is assigned, anything about a future trial, anything, I will let you all know. Twinkle said one of those podcasters went to CrimeCon, is going to UK CrimeCon. Man, that would be expensive. I don't know how they do it. I don't. I have no answer for any of it. Or maybe it's their weekend away from their spouse as well. Christine, I don't know how new you are to Unfound. I know you've been watching the live shows, but there were a few years ago where I did make the comment that my belief is that maybe some of these famous or even non-famous true crime hosts and podcasters, they maybe go to something like CrimeCon for all the wrong reasons. I'll just leave it at that. So when you talk about getting away from their spouses, I have postulated that at times. Now, you have to remember, I lived in Las Vegas for 13 and a half years. I know a lot about conventions that are held there, and you hear about a lot of the things that go on at those conventions. So you can only believe that that was probably going on at CrimeCon too. Sure. John Ramsey was a guest speaker. So yeah. Sheree, of course, I got your text from earlier about that. Yeah. Like I said, as I've said before, I wouldn't want to be around any of these people. These podcasters that are getting their pictures taken with Nancy Grace and John Benet Ramsey's dad and all this, I wouldn't have anything to do with any of it. None of it. Zero. That's why I'm like the odd man out. Christine, of course, they do, and it's Vegas. Exactly, Christine. All right, moving on. The new Unfound now is out. Of course, for all of you who are members on this channel, that's the join button down there. You got yours early. You got it, when was it? Last week sometime. It's the disappearance of Jordan Simeon. He disappeared in March of this year. He was headed from Fargo, North Dakota to New Orleans, and something went on the outskirts of Little Rock, Arkansas, and he hasn't been seen since. And so that is the recent disappearance that I picked out. The video goes about 40 minutes long. As usual, it starts with me talking like this, and then I do a little map work, and then I come back to this, talk about the learning points for his disappearance. So if you've not seen that on the channel yet, please watch it. Please give it a thumbs up. and the comments section is open. Let's move on to something else. And speaking of Las Vegas, and I have to admit that when I saw this story, I thought, is this just some sort of marketing thing through CrimeCon? I guess it wasn't, but that's how cynical I am. But at the same time that CrimeCon was going on in Vegas, right over there at Lake Mead, one barrel was found, and now two barrels have been found with bodies in them. And the reason they were found is because Lake Mead continues to drop. They're having a huge drought out there. And really, that drought has been going on, I don't know, since when I lived there over 10 years ago. Now, I know a little bit about Lake Mead because I learned to scuba dive at Lake Mead. So I've been to the bottom of Lake Mead, scuba diving. Didn't see any barrels. But so these barrels have been exposed because the water's been dropping. And we've covered some disappearances from there. Just to name two, Jesse Foster, of course, Amanda Fravel. But I think both of these barrels, both of these remains are men. And looking at the clothes that were on these men, it is believed that they were murdered and put in these barrels in the late 70s to early 80s. So I don't know if they were wearing leisure suits or had platform shoes or polyester. I don't know. But for some way, they were able to figure out that these men had been put there late 70s, early 80s. Of course, we start going back to that time of Las Vegas. We got to start thinking about the mafia, the mob. If you've seen the movie Casino, a lot of that takes place during that time frame of the late 70s into the early 80s. So it makes sense that these would be connected to that. What they also pointed out is they went back and checked what the lake looked like. What was the level of the lake at the time? And when these barrels were surely just dumped off a boat into that, back at the time in the late 70s, early 80s, these barrels would have been dumped several hundred yards offshore. That just shows you how far Lake Mead has dropped since then. So 400 yards, 500 yards. That's 500 yards is approximately a quarter of a mile offshore. And now the water's gone down that far that these barrels could be seen. So, and I think they were fairly close to each other. Does that mean that they got dropped off at the same time? Probably. And I've not gone to NamUs and tried to track down anybody who went missing in Las Vegas around that time. I don't even know. We know NamUs misses a lot of people. I don't even know how accurate their records would be for that time frame. But I think it did say that at least one of these men had been shot, execution style. So we're starting to see a picture here of a couple men who were murdered, put in these barrels, and then somebody in a boat took them off. Kind of like what they did to, of course, they didn't put them in a barrel, but not to ruin The Sopranos for you. But this is what happened to Big Pussy Bompensero in The Sopranos. He was discovered to be a rat for the FBI. Tony found out about it, let his buddies know, and they took Big Pussy. Of course, Big Pussy was one of Tony's closest guys. And so they all went on the boat. They revealed to him that, yeah, we know you're FBI informant. And they ended up shooting him on the boat and then wrapping him up and throwing him off. I think this would have been into the Atlantic Ocean. So this kind of seems probably what went on here. Do I think that they'll be able to determine who these men are? Absolutely. I don't have too much doubt. They'll go back, and especially if they considering it to be mob, what was the mob doing at the time? Who kind of went missing around that time that might have been mafia related? I surely believe Now, DNA, the only way they can do DNA is if they have DNA of the guy at the time. And but I'm guessing probably just by looking at reports of the time, and they'll probably just doing it the old fashioned way. They'll probably be able to figure out who these guys are. Now, what's interesting to me as a person who used to live in Las Vegas, before I moved to Florida, well before I started Unfound, I became fascinated with an unidentified remains case in Las Vegas that is still unsolved. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because this guy was found near Lake Mead, not found in the water. He was actually found in a cave near Lake Mead. And it was estimated when he was found, the remains had only been there for like a year. I think the remains were found in like 2006. Coroner decided that the remains had only been there for about a year. And this guy had been shot execution style in the back of the head. This is interesting to you if you want to look that up. They still don't know who this guy is. But they've given him the nickname Sandstone Doe. So Sandstone Doe, Doe, Sandstone Doe. There's actually a page regarding this on the coroner's website in Clark County in Nevada. And I believe that this unidentified remains is also on NamUs. And they still don't know who this guy is. Probably a white guy wearing what I would call strange clothes and, unique shoes. But he had been having a root canal done on a tooth at the time of his murder. So that all came back to me while I was reading about this, because this guy had been shot to death too. So, so that's that story. I'm just going to read a part of this. A small hole in the second barrel revealed empty space, unlike the first barrel, which clearly showed a person along its entirety. The I-team alerted police, who said Tuesday the barrel was empty. As the I-team has reported for years, Lake Mead was a popular dumping site for murders. Police said they suspect they will find more barrels with body as the lake recedes. So this might not be the end of this. Probably a lot of, if these mob people are even still alive, maybe they have to start worrying about this. They talk about how much Lake Mead is dropped. All this talk about me maybe going back to Las Vegas one of these days. There might not be a Las Vegas to go back to if this drought continues. So you can look that up. Bodies found in barrels at Lake Mead. If this is all news to you, you can check that out. A lot of stuff being written about it. A lot of people's imaginations running wild and free regarding all of this. And I guess really just reinforces the idea that people have had about Las Vegas for a very, very long time. Once again, if you're watching, please give this video a thumbs up. The Real said, I have a question on my mind over the week. I was wondering if when a reward amount suddenly goes up in a cold missing persons case, does it always mean that they're on the verge of a breakthrough? No, it means it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. Twinkle says, was it Jimmy Hoffa? I doubt it, Twinkle. He disappeared. Of course, that was just something we covered on the Unfound on the Ground. We have another one of those coming up, by the way, this Sunday. And I doubt it. He disappeared from back east. I don't think that they would transform the whole way out to Lake Mead to dump him, but maybe. The real reason I was wondering is it happened with 20 years old unsolved disappearance here. Anyway, it's resumed in the arrest of 2 people. I think the arrests were just yesterday, the Amber Haig case. I don't, of course, I don't know anything about that reel, but I would say rewards going up means nothing. All it means is somebody's decided to throw a couple more dollars at it. And my attitude rewards is they don't really work. There's nothing scientifically to show that they work solving anything at all. Everything says damn snitches talking about The Sopranos, everything. It's The Sopranos might be my favorite TV show of all time. It was so good. And I didn't even have HBO at the time. I've had to watch them on DVDs. So good. Just crazy good. Crazy good. All right, moving on. Tara Grinstead trial for Ryan Duke is starting. Of course, Bo Dukes was already on trial. He was convicted, even though he tried to push it off on Ryan Duke. And of course, Bo Duke's story was that Ryan Duke was the one who went in and murdered Tara. And then Ryan came to get Bo and get his truck. And then the two of them took her someplace and burned her body to ashes. But Bo is saying, I had nothing to do with the murder. I kind of got caught up in all of this. And that was his defense. Doesn't seem like the jury went for it. He's going away for a long time. So Ryan Duke's trial is now starting. They started with picking a jury within the last couple days. Just don't know how this is going to go. I guess we should anticipate that he's going to be convicted as well. My guess, he's going to try to put it off on Bo Dukes, just like Bo Dukes tried to put it all off on Ryan Duke. It's one of those situations where I don't know if we'll ever really be sure exactly everything that happened. It very well may be what Bo Dukes says, that Ryan did this all by himself, or it might have been both of them together, or might have even been flipped. Bo Dukes did it and then got Ryan involved. I don't know if we're ever really going to totally know the second by second of what really went on. Which stretches my imagination, that this started as some sort of burglary or something. Did Tara Grinstead's place really look like a kind of place to break into? You're going to find anything worthwhile to steal? I continue to believe if this was a situation where Ryan Duke did do this by himself, and then got Bo Dukes involved. And then, of course, I'm still way up in the air about this burning stuff, but still, I've talked about that before. Are we sure this wasn't something that just was an all and out sexual assault? Ryan knew, or both of them knew, Tara. She was a teacher. Of course, she's attractive. She's single. She's living by herself. Are we sure that these two just didn't say, you know what, Tara Grinstead lives by herself. Let's go over there and rape her? To me, and maybe that is what the prosecution's, theory for the entire crime is. But stuff about breaking in to steal stuff, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm not an expert on it, but this just seems more like a situation where this was a sexual assault, a rape, and a woman got killed. And the motivation was not money or anything else. I mean, really, what could they have taken of Tara's that would have been of any value? Why pick her place over any other house or apartment there? I just think that they wanted to rape her and kill her. And I can certainly believe the idea that both of them did this and were there at the same time. So, but that trial's starting. I know if they're going, I don't know how much they'll be playing it on court TV or whatever. I know Cherie is going to be following it because that's what she does. But that is starting. They're picking out a jury. But you got to believe, being that Bo Dukes was convicted, you got to believe that Ryan Duke is going to be convicted as well. Next story that I want to talk about, once again, one that has nothing to do with Unfound, and that is this convict in the prison guard. On the run. This woman, it sounded to me like she was on the verge of retiring, or she was done with this job. And what'd she do? She's like 56 years old and set something up where she would be escorting this convict, violent convict, murderer. And the two took off. And as of this live show on May 4th, 2022, they haven't been caught yet. They took off in a particular car. The car has not been found. They haven't been found. It's just, I think it's just one of those things that all us sane people will never understand. The problem is that, I'm not saying this is common, but it's certainly not rare. You hear about a lot of women who, of course, we know, unfortunately, there's a lot of disgusting stories about it. Women's prisons, male prison guards, forcing them to do things. A lot of stories out there about that. Horrible. But on the other hand, when it comes to male convicts, how many women who are out here walking around as free women become infatuated with these guys? Men who are even on death row, out and out killers, and certain women become infatuated with them, start sending them letters. And they're even talking now about this woman, what's her name? Vicky White, that now other inmates are saying, yeah, she and this guy, Casey White, they did have something going on. They did have some sort of special relationship. So somehow she arranged it. It was something that was not authorized, that she said, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to take this guy, move him. They got in the car, poof, gone. So the pair has vanished as she was transporting him to a bogus mental evaluation. Friday, the day the pair went missing, was supposed to be her final day at work. It was her final day at work, and she did this. It's crazy. She recently sold her home and told colleagues she planned to spend more time at the beach. Planned it out. This was planned for a while. Police now believe Ms. White helped orchestrate the escape after breaking jail protocol to escort Casey White alone. Investigators received information from inmates at the Lauderdale County Detention Center over the weekend that there was a special relationship between Director White and inmate Casey White. Director White and Casey, are both of their last names White? Let me see this. Hold on a second. Both their last names are White. Maybe that's why they did it. On Tuesday, the U.S. Marshal Service said the two were last seen on Friday driving a copper-colored Ford Edge with an Alabama registration plate. Gave two aliases, April Davis and Renee Marie Maxwell. Authorities say Casey White should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. Officials say they may have access to an AR-15 rifle and a shotgun. What's going to hurt Casey White is he's 6'9". He's going to stick out in a crowd. But he's a big fella, 6'9", but nothing to lose. The U.S. Secret Service is helping to track her the woman's financial records. One of her co-workers said, I would have trusted Vicky with my life. I really mean it. District Attorney Chris Colony told reporters, if we needed something from the jail, she was our go-to person, solid employee. That's why it's so shocking. Oh, man. Casey White was charged in September 2020 with murder over the stabbing of a 58-year-old Connie Ridgway. He was already serving 75 years for a series of violent crimes in 2015, including burglary. He allegedly confessed to the murder, but later pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. He was awaiting trial. when he disappeared. He faces execution if convicted. Meanwhile, a woman who White tried to kill said she's freaking out after discovering he is on the loose. What a crazy story. Just, you just never know what people are going to do. It's just, you just never know. But I know many of you saw that. That's a national news story. It's so shocking, especially considering the fact that this woman was going to retire. Now, I mean, you got to believe now, hey, some prisoners do escape jail and stay hidden for 30, 40 years. Maybe they aren't even discovered to be who they are until they're deceased. So it's not impossible to break out of a jail and go somewhere. And we, of course, we talk about that with just regular disappearances. Is it possible for somebody to go somewhere and change their identity? But some escaped convicts have done that, certainly. But why would this woman even bother with it? Why make your life so bad, so complicated? She just, Freebird. All she had to do was get through that day and not let anybody escape. Couldn't do it. Could not do it. And it's not like this guy was an art thief. Violent felon who killed a woman in the same demographic as this prison guard. Woman in her 50s. Oh, man. K-Dog, what's on K-Dog? I mentioned you a little earlier, K-Dog. Did you hear me talk about you? Everything says, yeah, I love The Sopranos. It was so good. It's just so good. Just insanely good. Twinkle says, some women just can't resist bad boys. I guess, Twinkle, but on your last day of work, you got your state pension. Go do this, you go do that. Nope, she wants to be on the run. Charlie says she has been visiting him in prison since 2020. Heard today. I can't. I get it. I just don't. Twinkle, if the guy's in prison, a woman can fantasize all she wants about him and never have to deal with any reality. So that's what explains me being single at 51. I'm just too available. If I was in prison, it would be different. The real, yep, that has happened right here in Queensland. The inmate had killed a police officer. The woman was a psychologist in the prison system. Long story short, she definitely isn't anymore. I think maybe that story got to the United States through. It does seem familiar to me. Or maybe we've had something like that go on here in the United States as whereas a psychologist helped somebody escape or something. Maybe that happened here too. But that story sounds familiar, the real. Hey, I guess it's bound to happen. We have so many prisoners out there, and we have a lot of single people out there, and one thing leads to another, I guess. Unbelievable. The real, no one was on the run in the case I'm mentioning, but the relationship itself was a scandal. Yeah, okay. Shri, it's so hard to wrap my brain around. I don't think they will find her alive, sadly. Yeah. That is hard to imagine, Shri. Really, how naive. This is almost like reverse Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome is when somebody gets kidnapped and the person who's kidnapped starts to have feelings or sympathy for the kidnapper. This is the opposite. The anti-Stockholm syndrome, where a prison guard starts to have feelings for the prisoner, even knowing that the prisoner is a killer and wacky and everything else. Yeah, Shri says she worked her whole life around criminals for absolutely nothing to become one of them. Yeah. like I said, it's just maybe she started identifying with them a little too much. A little too much. Starting to believe the stories that she was being told about, oh, I'm innocent and I got screwed over by the system. And maybe she heard that enough over her years of working that she started to believe it. The real psychologist has that inmate's baby now. I feel sorry for the police officer's widow. That story was rough on her. So weird. It's just so. No. I think, like I said, what's more common to me is women who aren't involved in the prison system at all becoming infatuated and waiting for these guys. In fact, there's a reality show about that, right? I hate even knowing that I know that. I even hate that I know that there's a TV show out there about guys or women getting out of jail and the people who are waiting for them. I don't even like knowing that a TV show like that exists. Of course, it's reality TV, so who knows whether it's true or not. But we know it goes on. Didn't Ted Bundy, didn't a bunch of women, when he was on death row, send him letters, infatuated with him, wanted to meet him, even though he killed all those women? Crazy. Christy, I agree with Charlie. I'm worried for her life. Everybody should be. In fact, it's safe to say that probably the only person who wasn't worried about her life and taking part in that was her. Yeah, it's hard to believe that she's even alive now. I mean, it's been what, 5 days? She didn't seem to get that she was just a tool. She was just a mechanism that he could use to get out. And once they're out, he has no use for her anymore. That's all it was. That's all it was. And we talk about this in Disappearances too, especially when it comes to like luring like Tyler North's. Here he thinks that he's going to meet his ex-wife for sex, and he shows up and it's her and her ex-boyfriend. And of course, we now know that, of course, they're going to be going on trial, but we now know that they killed him. And to just be, a fly on the wall or whatever you want to call it, when Tyler or any of these people who get up, set up something like this, when it finally dawns on them that, that they realize that what they thought was happening isn't, and they realize that they've been tricked, and it just, the light bulb, like I've been watching Despicable Me. I love those movies. But what does Gru say? Light bulb. When he comes up with an idea, he just says light bulb. That must be what goes on with these people. Tyler North thinks he's meeting his ex-wife. Nope. For sex. Nope. And I of course, we could name some other disappearances that we've covered, like Jeff Nichols thinks he's going to pick up some golf clubs. He shows up, and then it finally goes off. Oh, dang! I got fooled. And just about the time that any of these people figure out that they've been fooled is probably about the time that they were murdered. And unfortunately, I got to think the same thing with this woman. She thinks she's doing this guy a favor. They're going to be a couple or something. And I got to believe that has already happened, that light bulb finally went off, that he did something and there was enough time for her to realize, oh, and then that would be that. Very, very sad. But, she's the one that put herself in there was no secrets there. She knew he was in jail. It's not like she was meeting him over, some dating service like Match.com or Tinder or something. And, he's saying, oh, yeah, I'm an elementary school teacher. I volunteer for the Cub Scouts and all these things. And then she shows up thinking this guy's a salt of the earth guy. And, it turns out that he's not. He's exactly the opposite. It's not like that. This woman already knew this guy was a killer. What she didn't realize is that she was being used. It's just, what a story. Christy says the Night Stalker too. Yeah. Are women sending that guy? What's his name? Whatever. I forget his real name. Are they really sending him letters? That guy, that old guy? Oh my. No offense, but you talk about some desperate women. Maybe, what's her name? Eileen Warnos. She was the serial killer here in Florida. Now I realized that she was a lesbian, but I wonder if she got any, while she was on death row, did she get any messages from guys? Did she get any letters from guys? I don't even know. That's a real question. It just seems to me that the guys are a little different when it comes to that. It does seem, even though we know, at least in the United States, there are way more men behind bars than women. But I don't know how many men are becoming infatuated with women who are behind bars. It just seems like that's more like a woman thing. My perception. Charlie, why wouldn't he kill her? He's killed for less. Vicky had at least 95K and a weapon. Yeah. Sheree, Chris Watts has a huge fan base. Christy, everyone wanted to marry the gross Night Stalker out of California. It's hard to believe. We don't know she's alive. We don't, right? Chris Watts, another one, right? Christy, no. It's murder, not tax evasion. Yes. Christy, you're thinking of Joseph DeFranco. Can't remember his name. So even the original Night Stalker, that old fat guy, has women who are interested in him. Okay. All right. One thing before we go to, and I wanted to save this for last. One thing before I start talking about this Friday's episode, I do that at the end of every live show. My understanding is that Unfound got mentioned by that radio host on that radio station today. I will admit that I haven't listened to it. I'm not going to listen to it. I've been told bits and pieces about it. I think that maybe some of the people who have been contacting me really, really, really wanted me to respond. I think a couple of the people who contacted me took offense to the way some things were portrayed myself, Unfound, what I think about Phil Klein and all of that. I'm not getting into any of that. As I told a couple of these people who contacted me, I don't want to get into this situation where I'm always responding to all this stuff. I really don't care. Okay. All I will do is say this, to that, if he is going to catch this part of the show tonight, somebody's going to snip it for him. I just want to thank him for publicizing Unfound. Keep it up, man. I'm not going to stop you. Keep it up. Mention my name, Unfound, as much as you can. I know you used some snippets from the Tom Brown episode. 48 Hours did it too. I don't like it. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't stop you to do it. So I'm not going to do that because I can't stop you anyway. But please, it's great publicity for the show, because you'll notice I never mention your name. I never mention your radio station. So moving on to this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Douglas Crawford. He went missing. This is a very, very new disappearance. The newest disappearance we've covered yet. This is from March 17th or 18th of 2021. So just a year and a half ago. Year and 2 months ago. Not even 2 months. He went missing from Vinton, Louisiana. That's very close to Louisiana, the Texas-Louisiana border. Once again, his name is Douglas Crawford. Once again, March 17th to 18th, 2021, Vinton, Louisiana. His daughter-in-law, Katrina Crawford, is the guest. And yes, she did video. Great interview with her. She is married to Douglas's son. And the name of this episode is Along Came Some Strangers. And this is a disappearance that certainly has an addiction, drug angle to it. It definitely has a criminal element type to it. But given the title, Along Came Some Strangers, gives me a chance to, at least in that first minute and a half, to talk about, you can delete that one right there, Cherie, if you see that. Seemingly, Doug did not have, I'll get that. Can we put these people in timeout? There we go. But Douglas seemingly, now we do mention some names. You could believe that there's maybe foul play. The tough part to understand, though, is that the two people that we're going to be talking about seemingly did not know Doug at all before the day he disappeared. There are no records on his phone that he ever had any contact with these people at all. But he had showed up at a place he used to live. He used to live in this motel complex in Vinton, Louisiana. For some reason, he showed up there, did not live there anymore. And before you know it, he was missing, but his car ended up being there. His phone was there. And these people just told some inconsistent stories about what went on. And gives me an opportunity to talk about how stranger on stranger crime is a lot rare, I think, than the public realizes. And in fact, I actually went back and took a look at all of Unfound's disappearances. There's quite a few to do that now, 250. But looking at the ones that foul play is a huge consideration. And by my calculations, there is only one, maybe two, that there is enough evidence to believe that a stranger caused the disappearances. And all the other ones where you think foul play occurred, it was somebody who knew the person. But there are only two. So this seemingly will be number three. That is how rare it is. And we know how many disappearances Unfound has covered where foul play is probably the best choice. Many, 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 many. So this will only be the third one where we might think that strangers are responsible for this disappearance. But of course, in the end, it's up for you to decide. This is a disappearance that is on NamUs and the Charlie Project. Once again, Douglas Crawford, March 17th, 2021, from Vinton, Louisiana. Katrina Crawford, his daughter-in-law, is the guest. And the name of the episode is Along Came Some Strangers. So that's all I got for tonight. Yeah, Sheree. So you step away, and it's like this person knew, this troll knew you stepped away for a second. Sheree, that's fine. So what did we do tonight? Talked about, of course, being back here in Florida. My dad is here. I think he's in bed now. Disc golf tournament won around this weekend. Heather Dobbins' birthday today. May the 4th be with you. Everybody got to pick their favorite show or Star Wars movie. Talked a little bit about the blog / newsletter for this month. Angela Green, Dr. Telesco, Crime Con, Steve Pankey, That Radio Show with That Radio host. Unfound Now with Jordan Simeon. We talked about the bodies in the barrels in Las Vegas. We talked about Tara Grinstead. We talked about the prison guard running off with the killer. And then we finally finished it up with this Friday's episode, the disappearance of Douglas Crawford. That's all I got. Thank you all for listening or watching. Maybe you kept your eyes on me the whole time. Thank you. I did my hair just for you. And you will hear me and see me, I guess, on Friday when the episode comes out. Of course, for you who are special members here with Through the Join button, you will get the episode tomorrow. And actually, I'm going to finish the episode right now. So I got maybe at least a couple hours before I go to bed. Thank you all for taking time out of your Wednesday or Thursday morning with Australia. Thank you for taking the time. Really always enjoy getting together with you here on YouTube. All of you, keep your head in a swivel out there. Good night.